What went wrong with World of Warcraft? That's the answer. That's the question we're going to be asking today, and we're going to be hearing from a Blizzard veteran's theory on Warcraft's fall from its 12 million subscriber height back in the day. Let's get into it. I'm Blazed2k. Have you played World of Warcraft? Let me know in the comments. I used to play it all the time. I'm excited to play it again, actually. Let's get into it. I'm Blaze. For a special shout out to all our members here, support all the content I do and help me make it better. So if you want to join them and join the Legend Squad and get your name in every video and live stream, consider clicking join. It would be really awesome. I know I'm just a drop in the bucket in terms of other creators out there on YouTube, but it'd be really cool if you like me for my personality and stuck around. It'd be really cool. Come join me on live streams too. If you don't want to or can't, that's okay. Hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon. Anyhow, what went wrong with WoW? A Blizzard veterans theory on World of Warcraft's fall from its 12 million subscriber height. Now, I've got some personal feelings on this, frankly. They were supposed to be making a successor to World of Warcraft, an MMO, a futuristic sci-fi MMO. They worked on it for years and years. It's almost as elusive as the Nintendo Switch 2. And eventually we got word that they maybe scrapped the project. They realized they weren't going to be able to top World of Warcraft. MMOs were dying down at that point in time, and they decided to pivot and make Overwatch. I don't hate Overwatch, I just don't play it, and I'm kind of salty that they decided to scrap the successor to World of Warcraft to make Overwatch. I think this new MMO that Overwatch was going to be would have been amazing. Better than Overwatch. We'd have had more players than Overwatch. We'd have had a consistent subscription base. But I think World of Warcraft was such like a jewel in their eye, right? That made them a lot of money. They didn't want to mess with that. They didn't want to, compete with themselves and try and outdo what they'd already done. Because World of Warcraft was even at that point, was a juggernaut with expansions after expansions, with millions of people subscribed to it on a monthly basis, with all sorts of characters that people had invested hundreds, if not thousands of hours into, and that loved. And they knew that game. To try and compete with that and try and release a successor to that was better than that would make people leave World of Warcraft or whatever, they got a little bit greedy. It says we're just going to make a team-based shooter game with all the assets that we were going to make into this new MMO. I don't blame them from a business standpoint, but I am salty. Anyways, let's get on to it. So, ever wonder what became of Blizzard's World of Warcraft? Well, it's hardly died off. There's a new expansion just got released 4 days ago, which you can see the trailer for right now. Looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Well, that's a cartoon version of it. Sorry, that wasn't even it after all. That was another video that I went on to. But here's the new expansion, Hours Within World of Warcraft. Another expansion. You've got to love World of Warcraft. It's just something that never dies. My favorite South Park episode was where Cartman and the guys, all got into World of Warcraft, and Cartman was the fat kid. They were all like fat and pimply and stuff, unwashed, and just like sitting there for days on end playing World of Warcraft. That was hilarious. Anyhow, back to the article. So, it's fallen far from its 2010-2011 peak of over 12 million subscribers, and since then its subscriber base has been on a sharp and steady decline, dropping in 2019 and 2020 to below 4 million subs. In recent years, it's wavered between that nadir and around 8 million, enjoying brief growth when a new expansion is released, but never coming close to regaining its commanding heights. For the longest time, I assumed this loss was simply typical attrition, as WoW players moved on to newer MMOs like Elder Scrolls Online or metaverse platforms like Minecraft and Fortnite. I think Fortnite and Minecraft have more to do with this than other MMOs. I've not really seen an MMO that comes close, frankly. If you know of one, let me know, please. But a veteran developer, Blizzard developer, just casually told me there were other key factors at work. Design changes I've seen little discussed before. So Irina Pereira joined Blizzard in 2006, a little over a year after WoW's 2004 debut, an official role as a UI designer, but that focus rapidly expanded. Blizzard wanted a unicorn, somebody who could code, somebody who could do art and design, as she put it to me now. Disclosure, Irina and I are currently working on an unrelated MMO project, but more on that down the way. In her 3 years at Blizzard, she worked on patch 1.1, as well as the expansions Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, primarily as a UI designer, but again, full stack, I did everything, including designing with new features for the game. She also managed WoW's add-on community. From that vantage, her post-mortem for World of Warcraft's declining user numbers, if I had to roughly summarize it, is this: World of Warcraft lost its draw as a dynamic, living, virtual world, and even worse, lost its resilience as a virtual community. And I could not probably echo that more. When I got excited for World of Warcraft when I was in high school and when I was playing it, at home, it felt like a living, breathing community. It doesn't matter what time you went onto it. When you went to Goldshire outside Stormwind City at 3 in the morning, there were a couple of people hanging around inside the inn, just like casually hanging out, chatting to people. There were conversations going on. It literally felt like a little living and breathing digital world like you can hop into at any time, no matter what was going on with your life. I even recorded somebody's World of Warcraft wedding back in the day. I even have the video on YouTube. It was absolutely insane. People were getting married on World of Warcraft. People were like literally obsessed with it, obsessed with finding loot, doing little side quests. Even now, if you jump back into it, it just doesn't feel the same. There's a lot of people going in and out. I feel like a lot of kids that grew up playing World of Warcraft have obviously grown up, they've got lives, they've got kids, they've got stuff going on. So, and the younger community coming up probably aren't getting into World of Warcraft as much as we did during our generation, just because it doesn't have the hype and the short attention span sort of appeasing features that other games like Fortnite do. So it's kind of sad. It's sort of like become a relic of what it once was. It's a sad pill to swallow. I'm sure there are still people who live and breathe World of Warcraft that sit in the inn at Goldshire outside Stormwind every night, just like chatting and living the good old days and just hanging around with their mounts. But it just doesn't have that same feel of a living, breathing world that it once did. It's still there. It's still there. They even brought World of Warcraft Classic back. But I miss it. I might even go play it after this video, or after I get done with YouTube today. Anyways, so yeah, World of Warcraft lost its resilience as a virtual community, and I could not echo that sentiment more. It's sad. It's timeless. It's a timeless game. WoW, as it was when it was first launched, is a very different game than WoW as it is now, she puts it. Initially, you're dropping into a starting zone with an open world. The first time new user experience now is tightly controlled. But now when you log into WoW, there's dialogue boxes, quest objectives, NPCs talk to you, and scripted events. All these things that kind of drive you away from the moment to the next in a role. That includes making the game very easy at start. Currently, with the starting zone for Dragonflight, I think it takes you about 10 minutes to get to level 10. 10 minutes. It's basically a couple of hours through the starting zone. I think you end up level 20. Reaching level 10 originally took something closer to a week or more of play. The ease and speed of progression for players undermines motivations to talk with other players and seek their help. That is very true. You did sort of, when you started playing World of Warcraft as a newbie back in the day, you did tend to go around asking people for help. Hell, even asking people for money. There's a couple of times in Stormwind City, I was always an Alliance player. I played Horde a couple of times, but was never like infatuated with Horde. I was always an Alliance player, and I was, typically I'd come to Stormwind, say I'd need a little bit of gold to buy some new armor or to go to the auction house and buy some stuff. And there was always great, really helpful players out there. They were like, "Oh, you're new. Oh, welcome to the game. Here, how much money do you need? You need gold? You want to join our guild?" Like stuff like that. And you felt like part of a community, right? It was really something unique that you just don't see in games today. Maybe not even Fortnite or anything, right? Maybe Minecraft servers have that sort of same thing, but just nothing on the level or the scale of World of Warcraft, right? And I love playing it, especially during season. Or I'm rambling now because I'm rekindling my love for World of Warcraft. Even during seasons like Halloween and Christmas, the map would change. Like they would put up Christmas decorations around Christmas, or they put up Halloween. We'd have the Headless Horseman flying around outside Goldshire, and they'd have a specific dungeon for the Headless Horseman to where you could potentially, you'd have to do it, you'd have 5 opportunities to do it every day, and if you got lucky, you would drop not only his pumpkin Headless Horseman skin thing and his cape or whatever, but you could also potentially get his mount, which was a flying ghost horse as well. It was, oh god, I love it. I might have to try and get that Headless Horseman mount. My wife managed to get it, but I haven't managed to get it yet. So I might try and resub this month or the next couple of months and try and get into the World of Warcraft Halloween season. But it just felt amazing. When it was Christmas in the real world, it was Christmas in World of Warcraft. When it was Halloween in real world, it was Halloween in World of Warcraft. It just felt like a secondary living world. I love it. Anyways, let me share some of your thoughts if you play World of Warcraft in the comments. Anyways, this also made WoW feel like less like a world. This is a classic blunder that game studios make. They feel like they need to throw more content at players, more storytelling, more narrative. I love storytelling narrative, don't get me wrong, but the whole point of a great open world is for you to explore it at your own pace, not to be compelled to do things in an order. Now there's little reason to spend downtime in WoW talking with other players, let alone helping them out. Or as Irina put it, there's no white space in the experience, which takes us to another problem. Incentivizing multiplayer gameplay requests are gone. With increasing power levels, you can really solo most content. You don't need anybody. Like with talent trees and whatnot, classes can handle situations by themselves. Now high level players can just solo quests with a pet. There's no need for other people even to take down a powerful NPC in the zone. There's no risk, Irina argues, so you don't need to help if there's no risk. There's always things that disincentivize finding other people to play with you. And that's another thing I missed was like World of Warcraft raids. You'd be standing in a town or a city and like 500 horde players would just like raid through it and like kill everybody. Like stuff like that, it just felt so real, you know? It felt so real. In, you know, dungeons, certain quests, you would need to like find somebody, team up with them. You'd be in the community local chat and you'd be asking if anybody wanted to join you to do a raid or to beat a certain quest. I love that part of it, that community aspect of it. I was surprised to hear all of this. Back in its early years, World of Warcraft guilds required highly organized group planning and management. I believe that I was part of a guild. I was never into it to where I was, you know, like really part of the guild. I was just like a pawn in the guild. So whenever they were planning something, they would set a date or time. I would try to show up for it and we'd go ahead and we'd try and tackle a certain dungeon together. It was really cool. I was typically a healer. I loved my paladin classes. Paladin. I was mainly paladin. I just like paladin. It felt like a jack of all trades. I could be a healer. I could do damage. You know, it was just, I could even, you know, be a tank if I wanted to. Tank, attack, healer. It was just a jack of all trades, and I like that about it. In recent years, says Irina Pereira, that's not so much the case. I mean, there's still raids, but a lot of the emphasis on group gameplay is just on the raids. People want higher end game experiences. They want to take down big bosses. The smaller 10-man team dungeons like Karazhan, they don't do those anymore. A single 5-man dungeon like Gnomrigan is gone. Nobody does that. The grey area, the juicy part of the experience, kind of just slowly got whittled away more and more by player convenience features to bypass the annoying things. Suddenly you're not really running into people anymore. The player convenience features actually undermine the opportunities for social connection in various places in the game. Irina pinpoints the problem to the launch of the WoW Cataclysm expansion in late 2010, with warning signs in the run-up to the Lich King expansion of 2008. Here, during a discussion with fellow WoW designers, we were talking, I believe, about the Death Knight and planning an expansion for Lich King, she recalls, and we're discussing power leveling curves and multiplayer encounters that Blizzard Vice President Jeff Kaplan said, what about the solo player? And then from that point on, so the Blizzard VP Jeff Kaplan says, what about the solo player? To be fair, I was always a big solo player in World of Warcraft, so I'm glad, Jeff, you stood up for us players. And then from that point on, there just seemed to be a lot of bias for also supporting solo gameplay in this multiplayer world. But it was an overcorrection, like way overcorrected. The result, Irina would argue, can be seen in the declining subscription numbers since 2010. They saw a precipitous population decline in the late stage post-Cataclysm, the WoW population dropping, got so low, but Blizzard was struggling with figuring out how they were going to improve revenue. A partial solution originated from our colleague Brian Birmingham, who lobbied for the release of the original version of WoW in 2019. Let's go, Brian. The World of Warcraft Classic released, and basically rebooted World of Warcraft back to its original roots, which I think was fantastic, where play progression took more time invested, more interactions with other players, and when WoW Classic came back out, it boomed. It became more profitable than retail because it brought back the original game, and all the slower gameplay and all those things that made WoW special came back. Players ate it up. You can see the subscriber numbers climbing back up after the advent of WoW Classic and successive Classic versions of previous expansions. The release of Cataclysm Classic earlier this year, however, is not an auspicious one by Irina's heights. So here's WoW Classic. As you can see, it's declining. WoW Classic came out, reinvigorated the game, and it seems to be holding steady for now. It's dropped a little bit, but sort of holding steady, maybe climbing back up. So it just shows you, nostalgia is a hell of a thing, right? Cataclysm was the expansion that killed a lot of the social features that killed the population of WoW. Now that they expanded WoW Classic into Cataclysm, it's having the same effect. She says Blizzard often adds features that the hardcore player itself clamors for, even if, in an ironic twist, they tend to hurt community cohesion. They added features that the community wanted, but weren't necessarily good for the community, as Arena puts it. We started adding all those convenience features, right? The raid finding tool, random dungeon finder, that kind of thing. Features that also accelerate the lack of social stuff, with players instead going right into the dungeon. They made dungeons feel transactional. You used to go up and find other people playing alongside you. Where do you like, hey, let's do these quests together, or are you going to hit this dungeon? Want to join up? I remember that. I remember hanging around dungeon entrances and seeing other players hanging around, and then us talking to each other and being like, hey, do you want to do this together? It'd be a lot easier, right? And then we did do it together. I made a lot of friends, like on World of Warcraft that way. Not really deep friends, but you know, we helped each other out. But being able to have those random player-to-player conversations require time and space for such encounters. And in today's world, where people have the attention span of a fly, a housefly, a gnat, these sorts of things, at least corporate Activision Blizzard doesn't seem to think people have time for these days. I mean, I kind of agree now. I'm older, I've got kids of my own and stuff like that. It is hard to find time to really sit down and just focus on a game for 8 hours, you know, for a dungeon or something. But yeah, nobody's actually physically walking to these locations, so that nobody's seeing each other, she argues. This is a chronic problem with abstracting things that should be immersive into UI elements. Suddenly, people were part of an online player list and no longer actual people or characters. A new WoW expansion, the War Within, arrives next week and may attract a spurt of new subscribers, if temporarily. But if Blizzard asked Irina Pereira how to recover WoW's former glory, it would be less about adding new content, but better encouraging players to play and socialize, more importantly, with each other. So there we go. So here's Irina Pereira at Bungie's Game UX UI Summit. So I would tell Blizzard to reduce the size of the land, funnel people into smaller groups, take into consideration Dunbar's number in order to create more intimate connections. You need to facilitate the interaction of smaller and smaller groups, build content for 10 to 15 people. When you stick 1,000 people in Stormwind, sorry, I had to sneeze, nobody's ever going to meet one another. That is true. I did like hanging around Stormwind. There was a sense of community around it, where everyone's sitting on their mounts and just running around doing stuff, you know, picking up their mail, going to the bank, going to the auction house. She harkens back to a memorable feature of EverQuest, where injured players would have to spend time restoring their health in a safe zone, where they'd inevitably begin to chat with other recovering players. You'd have chill time where you're not being entertained, so that players entertain themselves by getting to know each other. Without those social moments central to WoW, she says, something crucial has been lost, and we seem to lose the thread on the multiplayer pieces of MMOs by overemphasizing the content and forgetting that content needs to drive player interactions. When you lose the player interaction, you lose the population. No doubt there are other factors to WoW's population decline, but surely the decline of community is core among them. In any case, Irina's insights are core to the thesis of driving her new startup, Unleashed Games, which is developing MMOs, as VentureBeat puts it, that bring people together. Our argument is, if we can have a pro-social game where cooperation is the win condition, that we can create more cooperative people and people who know how to collaborating in-game and incentivizing it in-game. Irina Pereira tells me we always prioritize the social interaction and facilitate spaces where people can make up their own experiences by simply saying hi to each other. And if the Proteus effect is true, and she and I tend to believe, these players might then even end up offering more friendly greetings to strangers more in real life too. Not coincidentally, they might also have more reason to stay and grow their virtual world too. And this could obviously tie into the fact that AR and VR is coming into fruition now with the Apple Vision Pro, Quest 3, PlayStation VR 2. You know, if done right, someone can make a World of Warcraft alternative that could rival World of Warcraft, but in a VR setting. So just think of Ready Player One. There was also a good book that I recommend you read. It's more, it was a kid's book. I read it in high school, but it was called Shadow of the Minotaur. And it was about this kid whose dad was like a VR developer that made like, you know, all these Greek mythological creatures and like tombs and stuff where you, like, if you ran into Medusa, it would be like super realistic to where you could die in real life almost. It was like super cool. It infatuated me and got me into VR as a kid, and the future of VR and how cool it could be. You know, if you're sitting in a room with nothing, you can't afford to go out, don't want to go out, you know, it's raining outside, there's nothing to do. You could just slap someone on your face and boom, you're in like another universe. You know, you're able to see your hands, do sorts of stuff, go on adventures, do stuff you couldn't do in real life that would, you know, that wouldn't cost like thousands of dollars to go fly somewhere, go fly to the Himalayas, climb mountains. You know, being able to do that for the comfort of your own house just blew my mind as a kid when I grew up. So the fact that it's coming to fruition now is super awesome, and maybe having an MMO like that, you know, building your virtual world, you know, something, if you're bored, you've got like an hour to kill, you can just slap a pair of glasses on, boom, you're in like you're in your virtual house, you can go climb Mount Everest in like 10 minutes, stuff like that, right? It's just super cool. World of Warcraft gave me a taste of that, a little taste of a world outside the real world, which was, you know, full of real people that you can make connections with, make friends with, do events with, do quests, have goals, targets. But there was a bad side too. Some people took the game too far. Some people sat and literally peed themselves. Peed themselves because they couldn't step away from the computer to go to the bathroom, right? They were that addicted to it. And there was a lot of people that had, you know, kids that had issues, people that, it was kind of bad in a sense for a lot of people. It was that addictive to where people just didn't want to live in the real world anymore. So there's got to be a balance, right? So anyways, guys, let me know what you think about World of Warcraft. This is an extremely long video, but I would say I echo the sentiments, you know, put forward in this article by Irina Pereira, a former Activision Blizzard employee that did UI, that did a lot more for UI and also played a big role in just managing the game and a lot of the expansions. I love World of Warcraft, and I would love to return to World of Warcraft in the way that it once was. There's downsides to that, there's upsides to that. Obviously, you know, it is convenient for people like me, just people that have a busy life in general, or family, but you can't sit down and be dedicated for 8 hours, you know. People grow up. There is a good side to being able to do things solo and be able to do things in bite-sized chunks to where it's actually achievable. You've got to think of your audience now, right? And we're living in 2024 with this games like Fortnite, where you can get a quick dose of adrenaline and dopamine by just like shooting people in like Warzone and stuff like that. I'm a sucker for that too. I love playing Warzone, but we've got to find our way back to MMOs and online communities and connecting to real people rather than these like dopamine bursts in our head, right? Anyways, in our eyes. You know what I'm talking about. Fortnite, Minecraft, all that sort of crap. Anyways, I love you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you a World of Warcraft fan? Did you used to play it back in the old days during Wrath of the Lich King? You know, during Burning Crusade and games like expansions like that? Because I was there for that. I was there for the Burning Crusade launch. I was there for the Wrath of the Lich King. I loved it. I loved the new world opening up. Everybody standing by the portal ready to jump into the new expansion, the new island or wherever. I remember going around Zangamarsh and the Hellfire Peninsula on, what was it, Burning Crusade, searching for those little spiky little glow in the dark, what do you call them, glow bugs? Needler bugs that were like needles, fireflies. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of fireflies. I can't remember the specific name for the pet, but there was like a rare pet that dropped if you killed enough of the firefly things, and you took it to the auction house for like 5,000 gold. It was fantastic. I used to farm them. I even maybe botted for them back in the day and got banned a couple of times. But it was all worth it. It was all fun. Anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts on World of Warcraft. Do you have any fun memories, nostalgic memories you just want to share World of Warcraft? I would love to hear them in the comments. I really would. I'll read every single comment. And yeah, get down there in the comment section. Let's talk about World of Warcraft. And if you want to support everything I do on YouTube, I'd really be appreciative if you did. Consider clicking the join button down below and joining all these wonderful people, and you'll get your name in every video, every live stream. You'll help support members events like members mukbangs. Members movie nights, which we've done 2 already this year, this past couple of months, or this last month, and potentially more, you know, members only chat, all sorts of cool little perks and stuff, and you get access to all my old live streams, even the embarrassing ones. Anyways, guys, I love you, I appreciate you. If you don't want to join, don't worry about it. If you can or don't want to, that's okay. Click like, subscribe, click the bell icon, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, have a great day, guys. Love you, bye.